If that sort of playstyle was brought down a little, I think the sort of dedicated Gauss snipers would be performing their role quite well.
I
would
agree
have to
with you,
agree
Edgar.
with that.
I don't think it's a buff at all. I think personally, I hate the charge. I haven't spent a lot of time using Gauss to get used to it and adjust to it. Some of our pilots have, but agreeing with Jaeger's point, you lose those opportunity shots. So if I start to think that I'm going to be able to hit something and it's running, I might get my charge the minute it gets behind cover. So you've lost that opportunity to shoot. And they've already done other things to change it with the high chance of exploding and other things that, to me, it just doesn't seem worth it to try and use that weapon versus the other ones that are available.
Yeah, with
Yep,
an
exactly.
XL, it's pretty much a death sentence if you get your Gauss rifle blown up.
Oh, he's just saying it's that all of us here, or at least the top snipers, can still use the Gauss rifle just fine. We can all make it work. But the thing is, now that it's been nerfed, other weapons like the AC-10 or two AC-5s have come to be more powerful than the Gauss rifle. And that's what it's about at the top level of competitive play, is making that switch when you know that it's going to be more efficient than the Gauss rifle. Not using something just because you can make it work doesn't mean it's going to be better than something else.
Very good point.
My opinion, I don't hate the change. I can deal with it if it's on just a Atlas or Orion or whatever. I cannot jump snipe worth the damn with it anymore though. I went to AC-10 or AC-20. But I do also notice dual Gauss Jaegers doing really well with it still, just because they don't have to deal with the cockpit shake and they have time to charge up and hit their target. So that's my thought on it.
I've got a question for the other guys here. How many, if any of you, are using advanced zoom in your teams for some of the weapons like dual Gauss or other things?
I use
I
it.
think a lot of the guys in my unit at least run the dual Gauss with advanced zoom, or run any long range weapon or weapons platform that's not jumping with advanced zoom. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's a wasted module slot still, because you can still, if you're really on point, you can still hit the same shots theoretically with just the 2x zoom from that you don't need the advanced zoom for. But I've actually taken a liking to it, especially on I public queue with a dual Gauss K2 a lot the last couple days just for fun, and I've used it actually in tandem with advanced sensor range. So I'm getting target data at almost the maximum range of max damage Gauss, and I'm capable of putting shots on target from max distance. But I have to lower the sensitivity of my mouse by a significant margin to actually be able to use the advanced zoom effectively, since it does somehow, I think it increases the sensitivity of how far you're moving left or right when you zoom in that far. If that makes any sense. But I think otherwise in competitive play, it's probably not, unless you're like a dedicated sniper or you're told to. It's probably you'd be better off running maybe info gathering or something to determine where you should shoot the target more than actually bothering to use advanced zoom. I think you can hit the same spot in the map over and over again without using it.
It's not a necessary module in the top competitive units. You can hit the targets just fine without it.
It's useful if you're using like an ER Large Laser Raven, because that's a nice hit scan weapon and you can pick the components off from about 800 meters. But for snipers where there's a mounted drift, most of the time you're shooting dead center mass anyways.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that target info gathering is way more useful, I think. Because being able to know where to hit rather than just zoom way in is just more prevalent.
That's where we lean to. I just was curious if other teams are doing different things or using it more since the improvement to it.
I can say that a few of our Gauss Jaeger pilots do run it, for sure.
Another really good question in chat was about SRMs. and streak SRMs, I believe. And what do you guys think would be a good change to make them more balanced?
They just need better hit registration. Like right now, you lose about 25% of your missiles every time you shoot. If hit registration was on point, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be talking about how great brawling is.
The good old days.
I don't think it can be appropriately evaluated at this time due to the lack of hit registration. It may need some additional tweaking afterwards, and I always get upset with the developers for putting band-aids over things like the damage increase in the streaks. The streak SRMs and the regular SRMs are now doing different damage ratings because they've tried to implement a system where the streaks don't always hit CT. Well, they don't always need to hit CT, but and they're sort of useful in mass against lights at the current time. But surely there's a better way to sort of fix that than what they've done. And and definitely the hit registration on the regular SRMs needs to go back up. It was broken before with the I think the splash damage bug causing. I've got 1,400 and 1,500 damage Centurion 9A games, which makes no sense at all. But it was because the SRM6 racks would splash all over enemy mechs, doing ridiculous amounts of damage. But now you can't hardly break 600 with it or anything if you try. So they need to fix hit registration to evaluate successfully or accurately where the damage is and other things with the SRMs.
This actually ties into somebody else's question, which was how to make medium mechs better. A lot of the medium mechs are relying on SRMs for their close-up punch, and when they're either not hit regging or regging but not doing that much of damage against like assaults and heavies, then either fix hit reg or tweak their damage up in the meantime. Like spread, ammo, all those other factors, they're pretty much where they need to be. It's just the actual damage application that needs to be improved.
And so, another question that was actually just typed in a few times, don't worry, we'll get to the light content one, stop spamming my chat, is how do you think mediums can become viable in play?
But currently, I think they are viable in some niche uses, but a vast majority of the medium mechs require either a jump capable with SRMs that function correctly, or a large bore autocannon like in Class 20 or something that I'm running amok on it. That's what's being used right now, I think, in mass. The Centurion 9A zombie build is still good for soaking up damage, so you can use those effectively as a screen, but you can't rely on those to take out large amounts, or you take out assault mechs or anything like that anymore, unless you're just running a ton of them and they swarm the guy. But I think the AC-20 toting medium mechs are pretty cool. Maybe a little bit of a movement change. I think they already did one to increase the traverse, the amount of terrain that the medium mechs can traverse, which was a good move. But other than like the fact that a lot of the jump capable mediums, which are the more I think viable of the medium mechs, are hurting because of the SRMs inaccurately registering hits.
Alright, and now the question that my chat wants to hear so freaking bad, so I have to stop banning my own unit members. Light my content. Fucking Versi. No new Light My Contact for 5.5 months, and not a new chassis to come soon. Discuss is the question. What do you guys think about light content in the game? Do you think that lights are underrepresented, or what do you know? It's a fairly open-ended question.
My take on it is, what can they give us that we don't already have without making it severely imbalanced? Because at the light end, there's not really all that many weapon combinations you can make, and most of them are already spoken for. They haven't introduced the new ECM mech since those original four, and I guess the Spider.
That's true.
And you've got street carriers, you've got lasers, and basically no way to cram any sort of big autocannons on them. So,
right, and I think the last thing they had was opening up that 20-ton slot, and obviously basically everyone agrees that the Locust isn't going to be viable in competitive play. So I guess unless they made like an all-missile light that made streaks really good, but they kind of already have that with the Commando.
And the Raven.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Please don't forget the
Bigger
Raven
streak
That thing was
pods.
the bane of the solo queue. For
Oh,
a while.
God. I
Streak
remember
has 4s and 6s.
back in the day when you could just run a Raven and a Commando. You had ECM and streaks, and no one could hit you, and you could just win every game by yourself.
Yeah,
Let's say it like it is. The reason there hasn't been a light mech in this long is because PGI put out a figure on how much it cost them to make every mech, and the light mechs are going to bring in far less MC because they have everything, rated up to the Boar's Head that just came out. So what is it, like $43? The light mechs are not going to bring in nearly as much money, not even half as much money as the Boarhead will, for the same amount of development time. So that's the real reason we haven't seen a light in so long.
Do you think
And
that is the
the
sole
only light-
reason, or do you think it's
Yeah. No,
That
that's
will be the
definitely the
primary
primary
reason.
reason.
2 points. First, I agree that the difference in revenue is a deciding factor on what they're making. That goes back to, I don't think assaults should cost more than lights, although it makes sense in an economic, like, in-universe factor. That doesn't matter, it's a game. All mechs are supposed to be equally useful, so why do some cost more? Addressing the question directly about what would make light play more interesting, P Smash is saying this in chat, and he's right. It's the weapons that I was alluding to. There are only 3, maybe 4 viable choices in weapons. You've got medium lasers, small pulses, streaks, and nobody brings SRMs because you can't carry enough ammo, you can't fight lights with it, and your damage against bigger stuff is still pathetic. So introduce more weapons, make weapons more useful, and make it so that a light is viewed out of game the same as an assault. And we're good to go.
Do you have any suggestions on like weapons besides like just bigger streak pods or possibly ER medium lasers that could come in that would help the light scene?
I think bigger streak pods would be completely contradictory to what we're trying to achieve, because then everybody just slams them on and there's no aim or anything.
Well,
Like,
you
it's
should
gonna happen eventually, but
you should
that's
you should
gonna-
load up the light mechs. A lot of the light mechs currently in game aren't used for electronic warfare or some of the Jenner variants were definitely like striker variants. Right now we're lacking the potent sort of lighter weight weapons that dare I say Clan Tech will bring. But you're never going to get the same bang for a light mech as you will for a medium heavy or assault mech. It's just not going to pack the same amount of punch. So you have to figure out an interesting way to make packs of light mechs effective, which they reasonably already are against solo targets. And they're going to have to make scouting more effective, which I think they're trying to do with improvements to UAVs and things of that nature. But giving the lights more options for like tactical or reconnaissance and awarding them more for reconnaissance definitely needs to be something that they look at, I think. Also, the capture bonuses are not really there per se to say. But on the note of light mechs costing the same as assault mechs and heavy mechs and medium mechs, I mean it's kind of like why would I pay X many million C-bills for a light mech when I could buy a Highlander, unless like I said they improve like the ability of a light mech to scout. But I'm always going to want to do a lot more damage because I'm a useless public player or what have you, and I want to smash faces in. So I'm going to buy the Atlas. Therefore, the Atlas costs more, and I still want to buy it. So I'm going to throw money at the game. I'm not sure how much that plays into it, but I don't see light mechs being equally valuable to an assault mech. And it does feel like this game is sort of based off of a board game, and it has its own universe, it has its own novels and literature and everything. And you're going to have to take into account that they are trying to cater as much as they're trying to cater to the competitive players and the players that are trying to just, play this as a game. I'm shooting big stompy robots with other big stompy robots, and these are the most effective. They're also trying to cater to players that are familiar with the lore and the a backstory to this whole universe, and they don't want those players to feel like that's being thrown to the wind, I think.
Yeah. Also,